Well, Waterford and the greater southeast area is certainly full of talented writers, and right now I am in the company of one of them. Dorian Van Braam has been living in Fiddown for the past 20 years, and he has a book out. It's called The Wild Geese and Northeast Wind. The Serendipity of Love, then, is the subheading. It is a big book. It is, I'm looking here, Dorian, it's about 720 pages long, and you're here to talk to me about it. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about yourself. You're originally a Sussex man.
I was born in Sussex, in a place called Plumpton, where they have a race course. A V1 dropped and blew the roof off the house where my mother lived. My father was in the Second World War. And so I was born in Lewes instead of where we were living at the time.
So when that happened, were you in the house or did you have to flee?
I was in my mother's womb.
Oh, right. So she was pregnant.
About 2 days to go.
Oh, my God, how terrifying.
And I was known as the bomb baby.
Bomber baby. Oh, my God. So in all seriousness, what did she do then? She was about to give birth. The war was obviously on and she had no home.
But she went to her parents' place.
Okay.
But more than that, I don't know anything.
You were too
I have
young.
no memory.
You don't have the power of total recall to tell us anymore. But what a dramatic start to your life, eh?
It was, yes.
So where did life take you after that then?
Well, I went to school. Then I became a student. And rather arrogantly, I packed that up because I said I was a writer and a poet, and I didn't really want to get involved with other things.
Okay. And why do you think that was arrogant?
The arrogance of youth.
Okay. Which we all have a bit of.
Thinking that things would pan out a little better than they did.
And how did things pan out for you then?
Well, it's all right. I was an up-and-coming young poet in the Poetry Society, and I didn't fall out with anyone, but I was selected to go all over Europe reciting my poetry for England, and someone who is dead now, someone called Peter Porter. He became the leading poet of Australia, and he obviously didn't like me because he sent me a letter on the Poetry Society's paper and said that they would, because of my attitude towards the person who had just given a recitation, they didn't think I would be a good idea because I'd be a bad influence on the other young poets.
No way. So you're a bit rebellious.
Well, I was furious. I never went back there, and I wrote them an incredibly rude letter, and that was it. But I didn't stop writing poetry, but it simply meant that no one's ever heard of my poetry. Although about 10 years ago, I got a scholarship to Oxford, and I was reading my poetry to organisations within the Oxford University group.
Okay, so did you have to physically go to Oxford then and stay in situ there when you got that scholarship?
Yeah, I was in the college.
Okay, and what was that like as, I suppose, an older student or an older person going to Oxford?
Well, you didn't really want to join in with all the activities.
Yeah.
It didn't worry me. Nothing actually worries me, to be quite honest. They probably thought I was a bit of a strange thing. But I did go into a competition for recitation, and I was in the final one, and then the guy who was organising it said, "You can't go in there with a script." And I said, "Well, I'm old enough to forget. Why not?" And what annoyed me, so I pulled out because he said I couldn't go in there, which I thought was rather unfair. And the person who won it, he blanked his lines and picked up his script and became the leading reciter.
That was hardly fair.
A lot is unfair in this world, actually.
Sure is. What did you think of Oxford as a town and as a college?
I loved it. I had an uncle who was the MP for Oxford in the 19th century.
Wow.
But he didn't go to Oxford, he went to Cambridge.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Does it live up to all the romantic visions we might have of it in our own minds?
I think so. I was a member for 3 years for the Oxford Union, and I just loved the intellectual flavour and atmosphere of everything.
What brought you to Fiddown, to this part of the world, the sunny southeast?
Well, I was a member of the acting profession at one stage, and I had the lead part in a film up in Castle Leslie.
Oh, yeah. That's in County Monaghan.
Yeah.
Doesn't Paul McCartney have a connection to there?
Well, I think the pop people go and have big booze up there or something.
Okay.
They get married there too.
Yeah, I think himself and Heather Mills got married there. I
Yes.
think that might be the connection in Castle Leslie. I went to a hen in Castle Leslie, as in I was on a hen party up there. Yeah, it's a good old trek up to County Monaghan.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
And if you went out the back way, you were in Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
And if you go out the front, you're in Southern Ireland. So one can imagine the amount of activity, illegal activity with goods and
So you were in a
food.
movie up there. What was the movie?
It was pulled.
Oh, okay. Pulled wasn't the name of it. It was actually withdrawn.
It was called Robert X.
Oh, okay.
And I was playing the part of someone who was in an asylum. We actually used the asylum, and the other guy was someone who suddenly, during a church service, he suddenly thought he got up and said, basically, I am Jesus Christ. And the story was him coming into the asylum, and we sort of battled. I was the devil, and he was Jesus.
Oh, right. But it never saw the light of day.
No, it was pulled
Okay.
because the person who put up the finances was the producer, and he had control, but the money was controlled by a group of trustees.
Okay.
And they said we were wasting money. Well, I wasn't actually.
You weren't pulling the purse strings, though. No. So your book, The Wild Geese and North East Wind, it's in front of me. You kindly dropped it into the broadcast centre last week, but I was honest from the start and said, there is not a hope in hell I'm going to get this read over the weekend.
I didn't expect you
No,
to.
I know you didn't, to be fair. It is 723 pages long, so it is what people would describe as a big tome, this book.
It's basically known as my War and Peace.
Your War and Peace. You're the Tolstoy of Fiddown.
Well,
How long have you been writing The Wild Geese and North East
it took me
Wind?
about a year, but
Is that all?
I've been rewriting. It was that's only about just under 300,000 words. It was about 320, and I cut it down as much as I could and decided that I could go on cutting it, but I'd take out important things because basically it's about the life of a writer and his conflicts, which you'll see on the back.
Yeah, well, it begins in Cuba. So did you travel to Cuba to do some research?
Not quite, no.
Okay, and it's about Julian Hamilton. After a lifetime as a famous writer, is confronted by Victoria, his daughter, whose existence he was unaware of. So it's a good old dramatic start.
Oh yes, a lot of action there.
Yeah, and he's been spending his final days of his life that began with the conflictual drama he experienced as a Princeton University graduate, a conflict that people have between their belief in their destiny as an artist and their emotional lives. So there's a lot of twists and turns here, I'd imagine. There's trips to Monaco in the middle of all this. There's a character called Rebecca. And at the end it says it contains romance, suspense, violence and sex with a nuance of a thriller. So you put a bit of everything into it.
Yeah, well, I think it was important.
Did you enjoy writing it?
Yes, I did, yeah.
And getting published then, how did you go about that? Did you self-publish?
It was published in America first.
Okay.
And I pulled that because they made a lot of mistakes. And now it's a company that's been formed. It's in the process of formation at the moment.
Okay.
And that is being controlled by my daughter, who's got a degree in English literature and arts, theatre arts. And she's now working as an artistic director for a small film company.
Oh, great. Okay. So the publishing process then, you didn't go with the company in America. So how did you get it published here? Did you go the self-publishing route or did you find...
Yes, partly.
Yeah, okay. So this book is now available.
Yeah.
Are you proud of it? Was it a nice feeling to see it handed to you like this in its published form?
It's about time.
Yeah.
It's about my 10th novel, actually.
Yeah.
And it's the only one I've had edited and checked out.
Have you had the other ones published? Or is this so this is your first published novel?
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant.
I've got a list. I just hope I live long enough.
Well, I suppose, isn't it great to have those ambitions, just to want to keep writing? It's a discipline that, a lot of people struggle with, isn't it? Even to get a book finished.
Yeah, well, I don't need discipline because it's like something I have to do. I can't not do it.
Okay.
And I get very tense if I'm not writing. So.
And has this always, since childhood, this has been in you, this desire to write and to write poetry and that?
Started about 16 or 17. Before that, I was going to be a fighter pilot.
Okay. And were you always a prolific reader?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
They kind of go hand in hand, don't they? I mean, great writers are usually great lovers of books as well.
Yeah. I made a mistake thinking that when I was much younger, I thought, well, if I wait until I'm 40, everything will be so much easier. Of course, that's not the case. Every Tom, Dick and Harry is writing books now. And every university has creative writing courses, which means that probably 70% of them leave the university thinking, I'm going to be a writer. Whereas if they hadn't done the creative writing course, they probably wouldn't even think about it.
Okay. All right. Well, the book is called The Wild Geese and Northeast Wind. It is by Dorian Van Braam, the elder, you call yourself.
Well, I've got a son.
Called Dorian?
Yeah, well, he's sort of pinched my name. He's called Louis Dorian Julius Maximilian.
Wow, that's
Van
brilliant.
Braam, and
it's like a gladiator's name.
It is a bit. And so for some reason, he's cut it down to just Dorian Van Braam, so there is a confusion.
Okay.
So I follow the Pitt factor.
Okay.
I'm the elder, and he's the younger.
Okay. So this book, The Wild Geese and Northeast Wind, available in all good bookshops now?
The book centres, there are 4 book centres, the one in Naas, in Wexford here, and Kilkenny.
And Waterford here?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the one in Waterford, Wexford and Kilkenny. Great stuff. Dorian, thanks a million.
Thank you very much.